Why so late? Well, Boomer GM here, he couldn't figure it out, man. He could not
We
figure
can
it
hear
out.
you loud and clear.
So, anyways, guys, sorry. Let me just brief explanation. I'm not good with the tech stuff. I still don't even know what the problem was, but Greg had to do a Wizard of Oz and let me in behind the scenes. So, while people are filtering in, I'm just going to ask a basic question. We'll talk a little, we'll chat a little bit. But the question is, in this position here, whether it's white to move or black to move, who is winning this position? Or rather, is white winning or is it a draw? Some people say draw. We'll just talk about this a little bit, and then as people filter in. People say, yeah, private messages thing. We're just going to talk through a couple positions today. Man, I've had a rough day. Oh, man. I had a rough day today. This latest thing was just the cap of it all. Oh, man. Yeah, we're getting some talk here. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk through a couple positions here today. And let's talk about this one. So we're going to talk about the fortress today. And something I want to just point out before we start is the great Helston, Johan Helston, who is a teacher here, has done a 2-part series on the fortress that you can check out too. This one is going to be a little bit of my own personal experience about the fortress. One of the reasons I actually want to talk about it is I'm terrible at it. And I think my gut feeling is that other people are also terrible at the fortress. Just because, and at least for me, I think that some of the things I'm going to show today were very difficult for me to understand. And I have noticed that there's a history. There's definitely a history of me blowing it as the person with the advantage against the fortress. Okay, so we have a couple of different takes on this position. Most people, though, are saying it is a draw, and is in fact a draw. To me, this is the classic position of what we mean when we say a fortress, and I'll just say I think the word fortress is often used in a couple different ways. So this one would be a classic fortress in the sense that it's not even that hard, because black just moves the rook back and forth between d6 and f6. And so it's not a problem. Okay, so that's like what we could call a technical fortress, or like a sure thing fortress, or whatever you want to put in those kinds of terms. Whereas a lot of the positions I'm going to look at today is that it's kind of like black is going to be sitting, or the defender is going to be sitting on the position, and we'll have, it'll be a question, right? Can white break through or not? And that's kind of what Magnus is implying in the quote, I don't believe in fortresses. In that, right, you can do a variety of things to try to knock a fortress down, and it can get very intense. Okay, so let me start here. And let me go back, actually, to this position. This was a game I had fairly recently against an IM. I'll start here just because I feel like this is a nice positional move. And then what I want to set the stage is anytime that a fortress happens, usually something epic preceded it. So in any case, this is a good positional moment here where I think I played a substandard move. What should white play? This actually has very little to do with the fortress, but I thought this is an instructive moment where I played the worst move here. Jean Q has the right idea. I didn't consider it at all. Maybe we'll get Jean Q in here a little bit later to discuss why they thought what they did. Now, let's see here. There we go. We're getting a variety of moves. Black has just played bishop a6, by the way. Yeah. Getting a lot of moves. let's see if John wants to come in. I'm going to ask John to unmute. John, if you could tell us what you thought about. Now John was saying bishop b5. I'm going to put it on the board. Why is that a move that appeals to you?
So if you go bishop takes b5, then you could go a takes b5, and then a7 would be a backward pawn. And after bishop b5, if he does nothing, then he can't develop his knight.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, well said. So I just want to admit, if I go back a little bit, Black has played this kind of a weird way. A4, of course. A lot of people in the chat said A5, and indeed, that's what I was kind of looking to do. And I think because my mind was set on that, I didn't open my eyes to the broader picture. And really, the broader picture is this is a terrible knight. And I want to make it poor. And so really, when I put the bishop on B5, Black is going to suffer in trying to get that knight out. And of course, if he ever takes, then my rook on a1 will be beautiful. Doesn't mean I'm winning. It just means I have a nice position. Okay, so I played very uninspired. I think knight b4 was more interesting than knight c7. In any case, I don't want to spend forever on this particular part. I think rook fc1 is better than b3. But in any case, this is where it's going to get a little hot here. Okay, so let's start here. Again, one of the reasons I want to show the prelude to the fortress is to give you a sense that it usually arises out of some kind of crisis where the defender has to reach out and do something try to be spectacular. Okay, so take a moment here, and then we'll get people's differing opinions as to what white should do. It's also just an interesting intuitive question if you feel that white has the right to an advantage here or not. Okay, and I'll just wait a second. Yeah, this was a fascinating game here. Some people are saying white should be a little bit better. I will admit that during the game I felt I had the right to be better. But, well, let's say that knight on e4 is a pretty good knight. Yeah, so now people are starting to give me moves. Now rook fc1 is certainly a thought. One thing to say about it, though, is then Black will certainly play queen c7. And after queen c7, you're not really ever going to play, or it's going to be difficult to play cd. Got a suggestion to play a6. That's interesting. Though, again, the queen c7, well, what are we really doing? I guess I have some sympathy with a6, but really I want to get my rook active. Rook a4 is mentioned, however. Rook a4 fails to the dreaded knight c3. Right? Oh, I blew it. Kraai, go back. Idiot. Idiot. Knight e5, f4, rook f3. The thing I didn't understand about knight e, what happened there? Knight e5 is that he could take on d2, then play f6, and I think I lose the pawn on c4. Now, Wesley, I realized I blew it with the board, but you can see it now, right? Yeah, okay. All right. Any other ideas? Now, Arvind is saying CD, maybe, but the thing with CD to see is that Black has two options. One is just to play ED, but probably what's going to happen is knight c3 followed by knight d5, and then the knight, I don't know, it looks pretty good anyway on d5. We have a suggestion of rook fc1 and the queen f1. It's a thought. So if we imagine rook fc1, queen c7, queen f1, maybe we're threatening cd, then, I guess the default move would be queen b7. And then it's hard to know how I'm going to get any juice out of that position. We have a suggestion to go 94, 94, AB, AB, and then I think it says CD and queen b5. But the problem with CD, whenever they play CD, black is going to play knight c3 and knight d5. That's the intention. Okay, and now John has a pretty good idea to play queen d3. So let's talk about it. The queen on d3 will keep the pawn in check by putting pressure on the knight. So you could do this in two ways. You could play queen d3 now, or you could take first with the thought that, well, the guy has to play knight e4 anyway. Now, I will say that during the game, I kind of wanted to dominate this knight, even though it was, I don't know, maybe dumb to say because the knight maybe not such a chump. But anyways, I can play knight e4, queen d3, and then think about cd. Now, I don't know if I want to play queen d3 directly because then I'm never threatening to take because of the El Forco, right? But I definitely, in my notes, have been looking at like knight e4, queen d3 as an option, and maybe white is a little bit better, but queen c7, queen b7 is still going to come. But let's take a look at that briefly. So knight e4, queen d3, queen c7, and then if you imagine, say, cd, ed, black, I don't know, he's got some pretty good activity, right? Some pretty good activity. Queen b5, I guess, worst case scenario, we can play queen c6, but he might have something more special, some kind of knight c3. Yeah. Okay, well, let me show you what I did. I think the solid way to play would be knight e4, queen d3, and maybe white has a little tiny something, but truly a little. So Wesley's talking about AB, rook a7, and what I don't understand about that is if just rook c7, well, the queen's kind of getting in. Like black has one problem really, and that's getting the queen in, right? Okay, so let me show you what I did. I went pop, pop, pop. Okay, and now pop. All right, here I thought I was very clever because I played knight e4. I'm not afraid of de because then just knight d2 and this knight is terrible. So knight e4 and rook fa1. Now, what I'd like you to do, put yourself in black's shoes. I'm going to just delineate a little bit of the tactics. So the point would be that if dc, rook a7, and if queen c6, which would be the only way to stay in contact with that c pawn, we have knight e5. And then we'll win the pawn back, and obviously, well, white would like to claim that he's achieving something with these fancy rooks on the a file, right? Okay, so take a moment here. What should black do? This is not an easy one. Just gonna take this thing. Sorry about that. There we go. All right. Yeah. Somebody says knight d6. I think knight d6, rook a7 is a real pain, isn't it? Yeah. The rook coming to a7 is going to be a real jerk. One thing about this, let me just say something about the way these fortresses arise. So clearly with this, I'm pushing black kind of to the limit. So black is forced to do something creative or just get a really passive position, right? I think it's as simple as that. I have great pressure here, and the dude must do something ASAP. And this is the kind of environment where, in my experience, these fortresses happen. Okay? Like some weird stuff goes down, or like we're pushing stuff to the limit, and then stuff like an exchange sack, a defensive exchange sack can go down, or, some sack of some kind can happen in this position. And it always happens, right? It's like white is like, yeah, white in a lot of ways is pushing its luck too, because the C file and the C4 pawn. While I was thinking about it here, I had a vision of what the dude might play. I didn't believe it was possible. I didn't believe it was possible, but I couldn't refute it. So I was sitting there waiting for him to play. I realized, oh man, maybe. Muradin is onto something. Jean Q, D6. I don't understand D6. I'm just going to play Rook A7. And once I achieve Rook A7, I'm just happy with life. Because they told me. They told me that the Rook belonged on the 7th and all that stuff. Now, let's look at John Q's question here. So D6, and here, it's a thought. You're taking away this square, so now you are threatening DC, right? And John Q is thinking, well, Rook A7, Queen C6, and there's threats of, look, I don't know if you want to call it a threat, but there's stuff like that. So, a good default move would be Queen D3, but definitely also Rook A7 looks good too. Now, in all these positions, I want to stress, I'm not claiming white's winning. It's just all of a sudden very unpleasant for black. So let me just say, is there an active way? Is there an active way for black to try to defend this position? I'll give a competitive sense of the game too here. I'd spent a little bit of time. And so buddy, here we go. So, yeah, when dude came up with his idea, he had 21 minutes left. So he basically thought for 15 minutes on this move. One thing that's interesting too about dude's decision is I think one of the interesting things about it is I don't think he could really calculate everything. I don't think it was possible. But I think dude did realize, like, if he does something passive, the suffering is gonna begin. Okay, let me show you what dude did. Anyone, last chance? Last chance, anybody want to go for it? People are talking about B5, knight C3, F6. Yeah. Rook B8. Rook B8's definitely passive. All right, here we go, guys. Here it comes. This one's really unbelievable. Here we go. Pop. Let me promote this variation. Check to the miserable queen. Again, if queen c6, knight e5, I feel like I got to be on top because I want to win that pawn back and just have a nice position. So, what does dude do? Pop. 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 There you go. So, there it is, my friends. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about what we might call the basics. So, rook a1, check to the miserable queen. Let's put it on d3 first. Check to the miserable rook. It's a bummer, huh? Rook b1, rook c1. And that's not what we wanted, right? It's pretty spicy. Okay, so that's problemito number 1, okay? And so then it becomes like, what's happening here, man? Yeah, what's happening? Now, I want to stress, I have not looked at this with the computer yet. At some point I will. But I wanted to first see it with human eyes. Now, first, let's just say, of course, it's a little surprising that this should work. In particular, because this rook isn't in yet, right? And dude just got a pawn and a rook. That's all he's got. This guy's radically misplaced, though. I obviously have a weakness on the back rank, and there's no super simple way to stop this rook c2. All right, so Vihan Jain is saying knight e1. Now, Helston, we'll just say, Helston's been using the chessable feature. At least there I don't get locked out of the Zoom call. You know what I'm saying? At least there I don't get locked out of the Zoom call. So I came up with knight e1. I figured at a later stage in my, it took me a while, that I was like, I guess, boss, that I got to play knight e1. All right, so I played knight e1. And I think this is going to lead directly to our situation that we're going to get. All right, so here we go. Rook c1, g3. Now, at some point later in our analysis, we could come back and ask ourselves, well, boss, maybe g4, maybe some other move. Also, it was really tricky and surprising that on, well, is it tricky and surprising? No, but after f3, b2, the fat lady is starting to gear up. She's gearing up, man. That's a bummer, huh? Okay, so here it comes. g3, v2. I get to take this pawn. Whew. Okay, so here we are, and let's put this pawn on d5. All right, so simple question. What is happening? What is happening here? Is white winning? Is this a fortress? Let's stare at it for a second, and I'm going to flip the board so we can view it from white's perspective. Evan's saying it's a draw. It is a very peculiar position. Very peculiar position. the threat, I guess we could say, for black is to play rook d1. I just realized something kind of amazing, though. So I played. Let's think about what you did here, buddy. I played kind of a dogmatic move here, but I think I missed maybe something amazing. We're gonna have to look here for a second. I think I missed something amazing here. Uh-oh. Did I miss something stunning? So let's just say this. If I do, let's just say I win the B pawn, how do we think about that position? And then in this position, is there anything special I can do? Boss, I think there might be. I think there's actually something si se puede here. I think there's something si se puede here, my friends. I definitely despise the move I did in the game. Now, let me say, some people are saying g4. That's interesting. But I want to stress that if we wanted to play g4, we could have done it also on a couple moves back, which would have been move 22. Right? So, like in this position, we could also just play g4 if for whatever reason we were determined to play g4. Maybe that is the better move. I missed something really obvious here, my friends. Well, on rook a1, I think what the dude would do would be, he's going to take and then look to play rook c8, or if I give him rook a8, and then to play rook c2. No, there's actually a tactical thing here that I just blundered. I have a strong little tricky trappy thing here. I think. No, we'll talk about it, actually. We'll talk about it. Right, now I think Gordon is onto it. Let me just make sure Gordon first said the right move first. Right, so Gordon's got the right idea. So f3. Now here's the thing. Here's the bummer for me. I need to get the knight out of there. If I do not get the knight out of there, it turns out it's really difficult. Life is really difficult. And we might come back to the g4 ideas. But here, the first really important tactical detail is knight d6, queen b4. Okay, and I think it looks like I'm winning said knight, right? Looks like I'm winning the poor knight. So, right? Okay. In which case, the knight cannot go here because of h4 and must return to pretty dumb square on f6 where it's dominated. Now, obviously, this is a problem, but I mean, I think we're fully in charge now. I kick the rook out. And this pawn, I think, is fully just ridiculous. That pawn's ridiculous, man. That pawn's not doing anything. Oh, this is just fully winning bows. f3, good night. It's over. And let me just say, this is where it's so tricky with the fortresses, because what I want you guys to see is like they always come after a hectic back and forth, right? Such as this little precious moment here. let me just check one more thing. So f3, knight d6. This looks desperate for black, but I'm just looking. King f1. Oh, this looks abysmal. And then I got to do what? Something nasty like knight c8? I don't want to do something nasty like knight c8. Knight c8, rook f7. Thank you very much. No, that's death. That's death. Okay. Now, we were talking about, we have a mention now of queen b4, knight c8. But here I have rook f7. And if rook takes, I take this thing, and that's a good deal. Now, notice what we're going to see in the game is the knight is highly annoying on d6. Okay? Oh, man, I played this game terribly. Let me just share the awful thing that I did here. So, it's funny, like, looking at it now, I'm like, boss, of course you should have played f3, man, with queen b4. So what did I do? I went rook a2 like a chump. Because what did I think? The chump was thinking, oh, I'll win the b6 pawn and then figure it out. Give me a break, boss. That pawn wasn't going anywhere. What are you doing? What are you doing? Ridiculous. f3 winning on the spot. Oh, man. Okay, so that was clearly a mistake. Let's move on to the next interesting question, which is then how do we evaluate after I blunder it like this? So, here we go. It's embarrassing, but here it is. That's why I'm here. I don't know how to log on to Zoom, and I don't know how to win these simple positions, man. Okay, so rook a2 like a chump. The guy goes h6. He's down to 9 minutes. I got plenty of time. And now rook c8. Okay, now let's ponder this again. So again, I did a stupid thing where I was just like, all right, I'll control the counterplay, and then I'll take on b6. But here's the problem. Now it's a little bit different. Because the threat is rook c1, rook c2, and it's kind of hard to deal with. And when I play f3, of course, I really need something special to happen because I'm weakening myself pretty extremely. Yeah, some definite weakening. Greg says, hi, I can't do audio here. Can you see this? Yeah, I see you, Bobs. I see you, man. Okay. So, this is also my problem. So, one question here is, should White say to himself, oh, buddy, oh, buddy, you really blew it. Just make a draw. Just sit on the second rank and he won't be able to do anything. Don't play f3 ever. Just don't do it, buddy. Don't even think about it. No, but I'm tempted, my friends. I'm tempted. Why? Because I want to play on. Because I like playing chess. It's a hard life. Yep. It's really bad chess what I did here, my friends. So, I played h4, rook c1, queen b3, and dude just starts messing around with me. And now h5. So if I play f3, I'm probably insane, first of all. And second of all, the only way I could conceivably do anything after f3 is I would have to play for the e4 break. So let's do a quick little poll here. Oh, yeah, this is an interesting one. Should white go for it here, or should white say, yeah, boss, that's a fortress? So in this case, the fortress rests on the idea that f3 will be too much of a weakness for me anytime I play the thing. And if I play like queen b4 or whatever, rook c2 is coming. Right. So that's the little issue. Any thoughts here? So the basic question is, what should white go for it or not? Now, we got a suggestion of queen e2 and then f3. And I want to stress queen e2, let's say g6, f3, knight d6, perhaps. But nota bene, when you do this, you have to worry about this one and this one. Yep. Gordon says, F3, let's play on. That's what I did, Gordon. I was like, dude, I gotta go for it, man. I gotta go. I gotta go. Yeah. Okay, my sad friends, I will tell you this. I definitely believed in myself here, and I just wanted to play. Did I think I was winning? I didn't know, but I wanted to play the game. And F3 is a horrendous mistake as far as I can tell. Now, am I lost? No, but I'm not the one playing for the win anymore. I'm the one playing just to save my soul. Oh, yeah. No, it's definitely worse after that, my friends. What was my best move here? Probably just to sit, to play like queen e2, queen b2, back and forth, that kind of thing. And this said, you want to draw, buddy. I do think if I want to draw, I just sit. And there's only one way for me to go for it, and its name is F3. Bro tried to win, exactly. So it's an interesting thing, dude, with Fortress. Like, there's a lot of different ways we can talk about what a fortress is. And his entire conception was wrong tactically because I had F3, queen b4. But strategically, this is what dude was aiming for when he sacked the queen. This kind of thing. And very easy to miss. I obviously missed the F3 thing too. And funnily enough, let me just criticize myself a little bit more. We go back to the original position. This one. It's almost as if I knew that F3 was something I didn't want to do. And so I was just like, nah, man. I'd just rather not do that thing. And no, I don't want to do it. But it was I had one chance here. So let me just say this game went on another 60 moves. And of course, I ended up losing. It was a ridiculous game because there was no increment. And I didn't really understand that. It was the first round of a weird team tournament. And so it was like a delay. I've never used delay in my life. Anyways, that's not an excuse. But this was a teaching moment. Don't play F3, bows. You can play F3 right now, but that's only because there's a tactical trick to prevent the active knight d6. Okay, let me show you another game. So let me first start here. White has committed some high crimes and misdemeanors. And we're going to get this fascinating position. And I played, I think, a reasonable move. I said, if you want my pawn boss, you can have it. If I play e5, maybe both knight c6 and knight f5 are problems. Knight f5 is probably the better move. So, pop. And it's a major hassle with rook a, e8 coming. So dude did that. I said, thank you very much. And I don't want to go too much detail, but let's say the point of this is that my rook here wants to get to this square. And white is in a considerable amount of grief here. Difficult for white to move. All right, so white played queen f5 to force me to move the bishop. I said, okay. And now this queen doesn't have any great squares. If queen h3, I play rook f6. Queen h5, I play rook f6. So queen g4, I said, boss, you must go to h3. All right, let's take a moment. This one is crazy difficult, at least for me, both in terms of evaluation and then figuring out what plan black should choose. White has 0 pawns for the rook and bishop, but my pawns are a little damaged on the king side. Arguably, the king on h1 stands exposed, i.e. maybe it owes me a tempo. Maybe white is threatening c4. And then we have interesting questions of like, well, do we want to do things like trade a rook? Now in this position, I want to say it's obvious that black is going to play on. But still, the more intuitive question is, does white have enough to hold this thing together? So you could think of it as a different kind of fortress, right? It's like an active fortress. And maybe some people, I think, wouldn't even call it a fortress. They'd just be like, well, it's an interesting position. To my mind, it's a fortress C position because I have to crack it. I have to break it down. Whereas white potentially could sit on a variety of positions that arise from this thing. Let me just say the bummer with the double pawns here is that it's difficult for me to use them to crack the black position down. All right? That's where it gets really hard for me. Rook b8 is certainly a move. And on rook b8, I assume b4 is what's coming. And the other default move for white is going to be, let's talk about white's improvements to the position. I think a key improvement would be g3, king g2. Any kind of protection to this pawn needs to be done. And then, of course, moving one of the rooks and maybe putting it here and then doubling is a problem for me. And at some point, c4. Though c4 is a really interesting thing because, of course, I get my own little passed pawn if dude plays c4. So it's c4 is a very double-edged position or idea for white to try. So the first thing I actually want you to do before we start getting into plans, which is a very difficult question, is do we think black has the right to, I don't know, claim an advantage? One thing, too, that it's important, like in the last example, there's a kind of framing about the position, right? So like, by that I mean there's a context of what happened before, and obviously black was pressing white in the preceding position. So there's a natural tendency for black to think, oh, I'm the one pressing here, right? Might not be true. Might not be true. Got a recommendation of rook g8. I'm not sure what rook g8 does. It's a thought, though. And let me just say, like, some default plans for white are to bring the rook on e1 and king to g1. And also G3, King G2, so that we can do that kind of stuff. Somebody's saying you already covered rook E8 and rook B8. It's winnable for black. Well, okay. King G7. Oh, I like it. King G7 definitely thought, but what are we going to do on either G3 or rook E1 after that? So let's say G3. There's other moves for white too. G3, in general, he would like to put his pawns on dark squares. So, for example, on rook B8, I think the default move should be B4. Another key variation is rook here, rook here, rook here, rook here, queen B6. It looks like we're doing something. But then rook E6. And it's hard. And you can, let's say, feel the potential fortress on a variation like this. It's very hard to crack this pawn. Now, we could go on, though. We could say, well, what about this boss? You know, what about this kind of thing? At least here we have the A pawn. Right? Pop. That is definitely a thought. One way, too, we can imagine a fortress is some kind of bishop b3, rook c4, and preventing any kind of movement with the pawn. Queen a1, e5 wins. Very good. Yeah. So, and that's the kind of tactic that we're going to need. Let's check this out again. Rook e1. Now, again, maybe he doesn't have to play rook e1 right away, but let's check. Like king g1 could be a move. If we do this, let's go queen b2, rook c6, queen a3. Another nice one is if rook h6, queen c1 is there. And we cannot play g3 because this bishop's hanging. Good. Now, one thing I want to say about this is rook e8 might be the best move, but there's a natural prejudice, I guess I'd say, against it, which is that I don't ideally want to trade off my rook. I don't think anyway. Also on rook here, I have big questions about what I'm doing on g3. I think. So there's g3 and there's also the famous c4. Could go c4, d4, c5, for example. And that might be a little bit unpleasant. Okay, so my friends, I think I'll stop it there. We could talk forever about this. Perhaps I will continue this discussion at a later time. I apologize again for my terrible Zoom skills. They're absolutely abysmal. I don't know, man. I don't know. I didn't start weeping, though. I thought about weeping. But my day had already gone so terribly that it was just like, boss, I don't know. Just accept it and move on, dude. Just accept it. So I've learned to accept. All right, you guys, I'm going to stop there. And I'm fired from the U.S. chess school, dude. Greg has just completely fired me, and I've accepted that too. Okay? I've accepted that too. All right, bye, everybody.